So, Zach, so it certainly appears that the defense played better this past week. So your assessment, did it, and if so, why?
Yeah, I think certainly we played more to the standard we started the year off at. I felt like guys were confident and challenged this week, and we changed some of the rhythms up as far as how we practice, a little more live, a little more kind of surprising things throughout the week to the guys, try and get them prepared for the ups and downs of the game. And then I felt like we played that way, confident and flying around and physical. And we you obviously like to see improvement. You wish you could stop them, 2 more times right there, and particularly at the end of the game where we had, some free runners at the end that, a guy falls forward for 2, they get the first down. That's the difference in the game right there. So, that's certainly something to build on. The effort was there, but now the technique's got to come with it.
McAllister was, I think, targeted 18 times, had 9 catches. You guys seem to hold up pretty well against him. Were you okay with the way your defensive backs defended him?
Yeah, I thought we played the ball in the air really well. We got a couple PIs that are, I don't know what pass interference is anymore. Yeah, exactly. So they just decleated the guy on one of them, and they run around. And here comes a touchdown. All right, So that's I always laugh. You ask some of the guys, like, well, I didn't see it. They were on the ground, so I threw the flag. All right. So that happens. You're going to if you want to play tight, aggressive coverage, you're going to get some PIs here or there. And, I kind of challenged our guys. We hadn't been playing the ball. We'd spent the last couple of weeks not playing the ball in the air. And so, there's got to be, I said, man, I'd rather have 10 PIs and 6 PBUs than just give up 5 touchdowns, them throwing the ball. So I felt like they took that to heart as far as being aggressive and trying to play the ball and, play through the receiver's hands. And they did a good job of that. And obviously, that McAllister's a great player, and they found ways to get the ball in his hands. And, 2 times we had a chance to pick it, playing him and, just dropped it or PBU'd it instead. And, that kind of changed the game.
Challenge this week, elite tight end, size. Rich talked about you got to try to slow him down at the beginning. What do you see there? How do you slow a guy like that down?
Yeah, they do a great job of finding matchups. They want him on the linebacker. They want him on somebody that can't cover him. Or they want him on a DB that's, 5'9", 5'10", and then he's 6'7", and just boxes him out for the ball. But a really good player. So you gotta beat up on him a little bit in the run game and try and get him out of his rhythm on throwing the ball by attacking him physically when you can, and then you hopefully you can slow him down, just catching the ball and breaking away, because they do a great job of getting him the ball in critical moments and in an open space.
Willie Fritz's offense, is there something different to it, or they just do it well? What is it that's made him successful at many stops?
I think they're really sound. Obviously I played him last year, and I feel the same way this year. They're never going to lose the game on offense. They're going to play in front of the chains, get to 2nd and down, and then 3rd down and manageable, get the 1st down, and do it again. And do it again. And they're going to take points when they can get them. They're going to protect the quarterback and protect the run game with complementary looks. And so they hang in every game they play because they keep it close, just by being sound, not turning the ball over, taking their time. They're not going to be up tempo, all that. They want to run it down, kind of like the NFL, and getting a good play call and, gain 3 and then try and line up and gain 3 again. And so that helps them stay in games maybe where, they're maybe lesser talent-wise or whatever that looks like. And then obviously when it's comparable, they find a way to win.
Importance of red zone defense this week. Houston's 3rd in Big 12 in scoring percentage. What's the importance with red zone this week?
I think it's important every week. We work it. The reality is that if they don't score points, you win. So you're trying to keep touchdowns off the board. And, they're a really good red zone offense, as you said. And, hopefully we can stifle that next, on Saturday. But they've obviously we put an emphasis on that every week as something that we try and do well. And that doesn't mean we go out there and do it, but, we're working that way.
For the onside kick, did you like the aggressiveness from your guys trying to punch the ball out, trying to get the ball back for the offense?
Yeah, we punched it out, and you talk about the ball bouncing the wrong way. We got it first, and it just literally kicks away from Reed as he's diving to get the ball. and they come up with it, and that would have been obviously a huge moment if we'd been able to get it back right there. But, I felt like all game we actually punched the ball a good job. They did a good job of holding it. It was one of those rare games where we touched the ball in the air so many times and never got a pick. We PBU'd 6 or 7 of them where we had an opportunity to pick it off and couldn't quite come down with it. So disappointed to not get one, at any point in that game, but hopefully this week we can.
Thomas and Johnson, downfield guys, will they take some shots? We expect that periodically?
Yeah, they're going to keep you honest. So, it's going to be run, deep ball, and so they'll make whatever the run game that week look like the pass game, and then take a shot off of it. And they have no problem throwing it up to him. I think the quarterback is very sound. He understands where to go with the ball. He can put the ball in good places for him. He is a threat running it, so you've got to play that, within the scheme. But they will take chances and try and throw the ball up to guys and give them an opportunity. And, no matter who that is, whether it's the receivers or the tight end, and try and get the ball down the field.
Coach Rodriguez talked about last week wasn't the best for preparation and Jamoy Robinson and other things going on for him. What have you seen from him so far this week? What do you expect from him this week now?
Well, I hadn't seen him yet, today. We got practice coming up here in a little bit, so I'll probably know more here in a little bit of time. He was great on Sunday, and then, Monday's the off day. I don't track my guys, so we're not allowed to do that. So, I'm sure he came up here and watched film, and got some work in, and then, we'll see they had lifts this morning, and then, we'll get to practice here at 2 o'clock or whatever it is.
What's your assessment of him last week?
I think he's working through a lot of things, and hopefully we can continue to get better and find a spot where he can help us throughout the year.
Zach, last year to this year they changed their coordinator, kind of reunites with the guy he knows pretty well. Do you see, obviously positive effects there?
Yeah, I think so. It's a blend of some of the things that Willie Fritz has done and the coordinator's done, and I played both of them last year, so they know me. So I think it's a challenge to figure out what's going to come from that, and then they're going to game plan you. You're going to get things that you hadn't seen maybe that they think are going to win or going to work that week, and so we anticipate all those things. But that's what good coaches do. They're going to put you in conflict and try and find ways to exploit weaknesses.
Reed said after the game the team played less reactive and had more anticipation. Was that something you saw after film, and was that something that was missing from the past couple of weeks?
Yeah, I think so. You saw it on at least our ability to recognize was faster on some of the things that we got that week. It's something we preach every week, but sometimes it takes time to develop that. And not just obviously a veteran guy like Reed Carrico is going to, be able to remember more things than the freshmen out there playing at the same time. And so that's the challenges as we go across throughout the year. I want to continue to get better every week and have our guys play better, and for the first time in a while, we did that. And we hopefully can build on that this week and do some similar, anticipation and thoughts that way.
What's been the challenge getting your guys to repeat good performances? How do you work through that?
Yeah, you show them the things they did well, and then you try and emphasize those, and then fix the things you did wrong. And hopefully there gets, we may have reached a point in the season where there's some consistency to, okay, we've actually repped this for 6, 7, 8 weeks, this call or whatever it is on top of fall camp, and I think that's a big deal. I was thinking about it the other day to myself. You talk about how much reps matter. On average, a guy gets between 1,500 and 1,800 reps in spring ball. Well, half of our defense wasn't here, so you're talking about half a year of preparation where you don't have 1,500 bank reps from everybody. And so as we've gotten farther in, for the first time, at least I felt like this week, there was comfort in the calls. Like, oh, okay, this is the same. This is exactly what we did last week. And though it has been like that, it doesn't necessarily get seen until it's been repped enough times that a guy understands the things we're doing. So I think that's helped the guys, just the consistency of the reps. And now, we're 4, 5, 6, 7 weeks of doing it and seeing it in games. And that kind of showed up, I believe, last week.
The big carrot, though, is playing time, right? That's the big carrot for your guys. Obviously, that's the one thing you still have. you're not performing, somebody else plays, right? Is that how it works?
Yeah, I think everybody either earns the right to play or doesn't. And sometimes that means, a guy is a starter and plays every snap. Sometimes his backup's really good and they go 50-50, and they play the game that week that way. And that's just how we've always done things, man. How you grade what you do, how you execute and all, that determines how much you play. And some guys earn the right to be the starter. Some guys, they go, a little bit less than that. And then, there's a lot of backups that play 30 to 50 snaps a game.
It seemed like your defensive line stemmed a little bit more this past week, and there were even a couple times when guys were flipping real late in the formation before the play started. Was that by design? Was that just getting the right spot, or something that you changed up a little bit?
A little of both. Sometimes we called it. Sometimes they were lined up wrong, and Chase had to line them up. So it just depended on the call. But we always stem. That's something we do as a part of the defense, and we've done that for everywhere I've been, and did it earlier in the year too. But there were a couple of them that happened a little late because they go a little bit faster, so they were getting lined up pretty quick, and so we were trying to get guys moved over to where they needed to be.
Is that okay, though? Because you don't give them time to adjust unless they want to back out and go deep in the play clock?
I think if it works, it is. But obviously you want to have your cleats in the ground too and be able to get off the ball and kind of get after people that way. It's hard when you're mid between gaps sliding to create knockback. But, every now and then they let a guy come run free. That definitely helps.
Zach, how do you like to defend Hail Marys?
I'm going to keep that as a trade secret in case one comes up.
Is it personalized, just things you believe in, not like what you saw everybody do, but for example, some people put a really tall receiver out there or tight end or whatever because he can knock it down. Some people will not do that because they want people who are trained in reading the pass in the air. How much of it is personal? How much of it is just the conventions of coaching?
I think it changes every week. What do they do? What are we good at? We might put all 11 in the end zone this week, so just standing back there and jump.
Is it fair to say that defensive coaches and defenders have a different definition of pass interference than offensive coaches and receivers? And is there any way that can be standardized so that everyone is in hard view?
I think it's always hard. If it's really blatant and I believe it, I'm one's he PI'd him. I'll be in practice it's a flag. There it is. But sometimes there's bang plays, and obviously you've got you have receivers who are getting coached now to grab guys. So if you're going to the ground, they're going to grab them you watch it. They grab them by the chest and they'll pull them down with them as they're falling, and here comes a flag because they're both on the ground. And I would love to know the number of offensive PIs versus defensive PIs this year. I bet it's lopsided substantially, because it's an offensive game. Guys, we let them run the ball and throw the ball in the same play. So the NFL, how they regulate some of those things is a little bit different, and they hold them to a different standard on some of that, like the RPOs and all. But in college football, you just got to play the game like that, and that's okay. We're all used to it now, and but that's where it's gone. That it's always hard on defenses as far as the PI calls, and it'll always be that way because the receiver knows where he's going and the DB doesn't know where he's going, and so he has to react and be able to play the ball in the air. And for us, big thing is getting our head around. I felt like that this week.
Expect a flag on every contested pass?
I pretty much think so. I guess if you expect the worst, but prepare for it, I guess you're all right. So if I'm sitting there going, it's going to be a flag, and then it is, at least I'm not disappointed.
It sounds like Curtis Jones is going to get some reps at running back this week. As a young guy, what allows him to be able to do that, play both sides?
Yeah, I think you've seen it on defense. He's really multiple. He's a great football player. He's athletic, he's capable, he's big, he understands the game. He also works at it. He's here every morning. He's up in the meeting. I walk up here, after I get here in the morning, and he's already in there, watching film, trying to get better, wanting to understand, being able to play multiple positions at different places and different packages for us. And so I'm sure, I don't have a clue, as far as how we coach the offensive side, but he's a smart kid. I'm sure he will pick it up quickly because that's just who he is, and so he's shown that on defense, and we want to be able to use our guys that we have in the best places. And as we move forward and they keep cutting the roster numbers down, I think you'll probably see more and more of that from. We've played multiple teams this year that have used defensive players on offense, so it's become a necessity, particularly if you're as banged up as we are.
I was going to actually kind of go in the direction Bob went, so just to kind of add on, how would you evaluate your secondary so far on how they've dealt with the way pass interference is called, if you know kind of what I'm asking? Because you expect a flag every time, but I'm sure as a coach you're telling them, hey, this is how it's going to be officiated, this is what you need to do to try to avoid it as much as possible.
Yeah, I've preached it last game. We're going to work on it this week. We don't do a good job of getting, I call it chest to chest, but getting in phase with the receiver and looking back for the ball. A lot of times we're there, and then instead of turning inside to play the ball, we try and turn outside and you run into the guy. And so there's a bit of, a work we have to do to prevent those things, because there are quite a few of them where hey, you tackled the guy, dude. You can't do that. And so anytime it's something that can be changed by coaching, we want to do that. And I think that our guys, they understand that. We're going to show them a couple today actually in the meeting about here's how you want to play the ball, and try and execute more in that kind of sense of a technique standpoint.
Can I get one more on Hail Marys?
Sure.
How often, you may never see one in a year, how often do you spend on it in practice? Is it weekly? Is it once a week? Is it just in spring or maybe just in summer?
No, you do it probably 2-3 times a week, just in case it comes up. I mean, it's a critical moment. You would really hate to be, I don't know who it was that caught it on the 1 yard line and fell short this week, but somebody threw a Hail Mary at the end of the game and was short a yard, and that would suck. So on vice versa, good job from the defense, other than though they let him catch it, I guess, so maybe not, but he didn't score. So you do got to work it, because those things, they win games in big moments.